The title of this training series is For the Win. We will discuss whether we should officiate game-winning or game-tying situations differently than we would the previous time in our contest. For the Win is divided into 6 chapters. The first chapter is entitled For the Win. In the first chapter, we will give you some examples of some potential game-tying or game-winning situations. The second chapter is called Prepping the Mill. We will discuss how to prepare to officiate these game-winning or game-tying situations. The third chapter is entitled Setting the Table. We will discuss officiating requirements that will set the stage for us to actually officiate in winning time. Chapter 4 is entitled Time to Eat. We will finally get into how we will actually officiate game-winning and game-tying situations. Chapter 5 is entitled Equal and Opposite Reactions. We will discuss the reactions and the backlash of officiating in game-winning and game-tying situations. And the 6th and final chapter is entitled The E Stands For. We will discuss the most important E's to take away from officiating these nail-biting contests. So chapter 1, For the Win. Let's look at some potential game-winning or game-tying situations. This presentation is meant for all sports, but we will limit our coverage to 3 sports: basketball, volleyball, and football. At your leisure, feel free to pause this presentation and read the 3 basketball scenarios. All 3 scenarios will have the following conditions. We have 37 seconds left in regulation, a 30-second shot clock, and NCAA timing rules. We must have game awareness and game IQ. We must understand what coaches may potentially do, what coaches may be potentially planning, who coaches want to have the basketball, who coaches may want to put on the free throw line. Does a coach want to foul to extend the game? Would a coach rather play straight up defense and get the ball back for a game tying or a game winning possession? What does the coach have planned if he or she has a timeout? What do they have planned if they don't have a timeout? Who's the ball going to? Officials must be prepared for all those possibilities and potential outcomes. Here are 3 potential scenarios for volleyball. We are playing the best 3 out of 5, but we can also apply these scenarios to best 2 out of 3 sets match. Who are coaches running their offenses for? Who are the best defenders? Who do we want passing the ball? Who do we want setting up the ball? Who has had a great game attacking? Who has had a great game blocking? If one team takes the lead with the set or match on the line, would the losing team take a timeout if they have any available? These are things that we must think about. We also must consider what have teams been trying to accomplish throughout the match. What players have been playing well? What players have been struggling? And if we are limited on substitutions, what 6 players are going to be on the court in game tying or game winning situations if coaches have a choice and available substitutes left to work with? Here are 3 scenarios for football. We're going to use NFL timing rules for all 3 scenarios. Again, just like any other sport, officials must be willing to view the game from the perspective of a coach. What is the coach trying to accomplish, not only throughout the contest, but in these game tying or game winning scenarios? Would they use their timeouts to preserve time on the clock? Would the team that is winning let time run down to give the losing team as little time as possible? Would a team kick a field goal, or would they go for it on 4th down and try to win the game and run the clock out? If a team ties the game with a touchdown, would they go for the PAT or would they go for 2? We must be aware of all these different possibilities and plan for all these potential possibilities as officials. Our second chapter is entitled Prepping the Meal. In this chapter, we will discuss how to prepare to officiate game-winning or game-tying situations. In order to be prepared to officiate game-winning or game-tying scenarios, it is essential that we have pre-match, pre-game conferences with our partners. We must have conferences with our partners where we discuss coverage areas, crew conferences when necessary, our roles and responsibilities at the end of the game, and officiating where our partners can. We must have these pre-match, pre-game conferences before the start of the contest. At a minimum, 30 minutes to an hour before the start of the contest. We can also have these pre-match, pre-game conferences remotely, days in advance of the contest. Video conferencing has come a long way, and tools such as Google Meet, Zoom will definitely aid us in having pre-match and pre-game conferences with our partners. What about game and match film study? Have we studied contests that we have officiated in where the contest came down to a last second possession or score? Have we taken the time to study and break down contests that others have officiated where the contest came down to a last possession or score? It is amazing that the number of officials that are out there that don't take a little time to study games or highlights or match film to analyze and see how other officials handled similar game-winning and game-tying situations. What can we learn from those officials, both from a positive standpoint or a negative standpoint? Or what can we learn about what to do or what not to do? What about past game or match experiences? Have you ever been involved in contests that came down to the last possession or score? In that contest, were you a player, were you a coach, or were you an official? What did you learn from those experiences? How does this experience assist us as officials when similar moments arise? Experiences, ladies and gentlemen, are often the best teachers. Our third chapter is entitled Setting the Table. In this chapter, we will discuss officiating requirements that will set the stage for us to officiate in winning time. Before we get to the game winning or game time situation, we do have a whole other section of the contest to officiate. So what do we do, or what have we been doing during that entire duration of the contest to prepare for the game winning or game tying portion of the contest? Are we doing an early cleanup of the contest? Are we willing to do what is necessary by rule to clean up the contest so that contest can have a flow? Are we willing to address illegal contact early and often? Are we willing to handle illegal ball handling in sports where illegal ball handling is applicable? Do we establish our presence where there is no tolerance for disrespect and unsporting conduct and behavior? Let's talk about early whistles in sports where whistles are applicable. In conjunction with contest cleanup, are we willing to use our whistle early and often? Are we willing to set a standard with early whistles and remain consistent with said standard? Typically, good early whistles tend to lead to less but even greater whistles later in the contest. Ladies and gentlemen, no matter what sport or sports you officiate, every sport has a rule book. And somewhere in that rule book, it covers unsporting behavior and conduct. So no matter what sport you officiate, there should never be a tolerance for unsporting behavior and conduct. The question is, when do you set the expectation that there will not be any unsporting behavior and conduct? Do you wait until the contest begins? Or do you set it prior to the start of the contest? Set this expectation early and maintain it throughout the duration of your contest. And when I say early, I mean prior to the start of the contest. Avoid marginal calls. Are players perfect? Absolutely not. Are officials perfect? Absolutely not. With that said, we should avoid marginal calls that do not serve the contest. When we make rulings that we cannot explain and or the call is not somewhat obvious, we are inserting marginal calls into the contest. And is that a standard that you're willing to maintain throughout the contest? And is that a standard that your partners can maintain throughout the contest? Ladies and gentlemen, players and coaches don't set the pace for the contest. Officials do. We do. Typically, contests that do not waste time, especially during dead balls, have opportunities for more plays, potentially less whistles where whistles are applicable, few debates and arguments between teams and officials, few negative interactions between opposing players, and the contest duration will not be unnecessarily long in length. Standards of perfection. Everybody involved in the contest is a human being. None of us are perfect, so don't hold players, coaches, and bench personnel to perfect standards. That is a standard that none of us are capable of, nor are we capable of maintaining it. However, we should all be accountable for our behavior and actions. Again, it is never, ever permissible to allow disrespect and unsporting conduct and behavior. Establish professional and respectful rapport. Officiating is a very unique job. The key word is job. Professionalism and respect are mandatory. That goes for everyone involved in the contest. As officials, we should set the standard for professionalism and respect. Initiate it with everyone right out of the gate. Set that expectation that you will exhibit professionalism and give respect, expected and demanded in return. In preparation for officiating, this should be said, and I'm going to say it twice. What you permit, you promote. What you allow, you encourage. What you condone, you own. What you permit, you promote. What you allow, you encourage. What you condone, you own. The fourth chapter is entitled Time to Eat. Now we get to the heart of this presentation. How do we officiate in game-winning or game-tying situations? So this is the heart of our presentation. I have 3 P's that cover how we should officiate in game-winning or game-tying situations. The first P is patience. Remember, almost any game or any contest that you officiate has something on the line for both winners and losers. So keep that in mind in these game-winning and game-tying situations. Exhibit even more patience in these final moments. Remember, start, develop, finish, decision, and if applicable, whistle. Always ask yourself, what did a player do wrong or illegally before coming to the final decision? Now, in this presentation, we've had a lot of titles referring to eating in meals. So I want you to think of every possession, rally, or play as a portion of a huge meal. If you paid a lot of money for a meal at a restaurant, I would like to think that you would value each portion of the meal. You want every portion to be good. If you were a chef and you prepared the meal, you would want your clients and your customers to enjoy every part of the meal, every portion that you made or that your staff made. So, each portion in a restaurant is really important. The taste of each portion determines your satisfaction of the meal or your customers' or clients' portion of the meal. So think of each possession, rally, or play that we officiate in the contest as a portion of a huge meal and how important that portion is to the meal. Each possession, rally, and play that we officiate is equally important in a contest. The third P is perfection. So we have established that no one in our contest is perfect. We have established that we as officials should not hold players, coaches, and teams to standards of perfection. Having said that, however, we must make perfect, accurate rulings in winning time. And later in this presentation, we're going to discuss how we can make perfect, accurate rulings in winning time. The fifth chapter in our presentation is entitled Equal and Opposite Reaction. We're going to discuss the reactions and backlash of officiating in game-winning or game-tying situations. Isaac Newton's third law of gravity says every action has an equal and opposite reaction. I'm going to let those words marinate for just a minute. And if you think about officiating, 99 out of 100 times we make an accurate ruling, and the accurate ruling almost never has a positive reaction from someone. In game tying and game winning situations, you can be damn sure that we're not going to get a whole lot of positive reactions from our accurate rulings that should be perfect. So let's talk about our potential reactions from certain people. Coaches, players, fans, bench personnel, and our officiating partners. So coaches are the most vulnerable in winning time. They fear making a mistake in play calling or putting in the wrong players at this time. So understand that they're going to have emotional reactions if and when your whistle blows, if a whistle is applicable. Be patient when dealing with their emotional reactions, but do not tolerate any unsporting conduct and disrespect. Players also are vulnerable in winning time. They fear making a mistake in play execution. They fear letting their team and fans down. Likewise, understand their emotional reaction if and when your whistle blows, if a whistle is applicable. Be patient when dealing with their emotional reactions, but do not tolerate any unsporting conduct and disrespect. Fans. They are also vulnerable in winning time. And every whistle in the contest, and especially in winning time, are going to spark either a positive or negative reaction, one way or the other. Fans will not have no love for officials even if the contest ends positively for them and their team. Understand their emotions, but please be prepared to call on game management and security if fans should present a potential threat or safety concern with regards to the contest participants. And you, as officials, are also contest participants. Bench personnel are also vulnerable in winning time, just like players and coaches. Understand their emotional reaction if and when your whistle blows, if a whistle is applicable. Be patient when dealing with their emotional reactions, but do not tolerate any unsporting conduct and disrespect. Now for our partners. As officials, we need to back our partners when they make a ruling, especially if the ruling is accurate and correct. If the ruling is incorrect and by rule you can assist the calling official in a correct ruling, step up and do so. Don't ever let your face and body language demonstrate disapproval of your partner's ruling. And remember, referee where your partners cannot. The final chapter and for the win training presentation is entitled The E Stands For. In this chapter, we will discuss the most important E's to take away from officiating these nail-biting contests. When officiating contests that come down to a game winning or game tying scenario, situation, or play, there are 3 E's that we should take away from these contests. And really, we should take away these E's in any contest. The first E is evaluation. We must have honest self-evaluation of our performance soon after the contest, especially while the contest is still fresh on our minds. We must be willing to accept constructive feedback from credible and respected colleagues about our performance. Remember, all feedback and all advice is not good advice. We must be willing to study the contest video if possible to honestly assess our performance. The next E is evolution. So how have we grown and developed as a result of this contest? Has this contest matured us both professionally and personally? Are we in a state of continuous learning and development? Every contest that we officiate should grow us in some way, fashion, or form. Every contest should see continued improvement and development. And the last E, enjoyment. Did we have fun officiating this contest? The best contests, ladies and gentlemen, are often ones that come down to a last possession or last score. Those contests are the most fun. They can be the most nerve-wracking, but they're usually the most enjoyable. So have fun officiating them. So, how do we officiate in game situations where teams are going for the win or maybe the tie? For the win, we officiate by the rules. We must be a constant steward of the rule and case books, as well as the mechanics manuals. How can we enforce rules and make accurate rulings on rules that we don't understand or we don't know? For the win, we officiate using game IQ. We must understand the game. We must understand the objective of the game. We must understand what coaches, players, and teams are trying to accomplish. As commentators like to say, like the game within the game. And we must also understand the game that we're in. What are teams trying to accomplish? Teams are going to generally stick to patterns and habits in areas where they're strong and stay away from areas where they're weak. For the win, we officiate by our game standard. What are we calling in this contest? What are we not calling in this contest? And whatever we decide to call or not call in the contest, hopefully we're doing it by the rules. We must be consistent in that standard throughout the entire duration of the contest. And as long as the players and the coaches and the teams understand your standard and it is being applied consistently, for the most part, most teams will not have a problem with that. Just make sure in maintaining that standard, you don't introduce something new at the most inappropriate time of the contest. Usually that is game winning or game tying time. For the win, we officiate using common sense. In combination with the rules, use common sense. One of my mentors taught me that there is an additional rule in every rule book at the end of the rule book. It may not appear to the naked eye, but believe me, it's there. And that chapter of the rule book is common sense. And I probably shouldn't have to explain any more than that. For the win, we officiate what we can explain. We should only make rulings that we can explain by rule in conjunction with common sense. Ladies and gentlemen, do I really have to dive deeper into that? And for the win, we officiate where our partners cannot. The number one job, ladies and gentlemen, in officiating is to get the play right. If you know the right call, accurate ruling, then make the right call. We can haggle and argue over primary coverage areas and secondary coverage areas after the contest is over and our post-match and post-game conferences. Job one is to get the plays right. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how we officiate game tying or game winning situations. We should take a moment to thank Slides Mania for this presentation template. We want to thank Unsplash for the samples, images used in this presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for spending some time with us. We hope this presentation entitled For the Win gave you some valuable insight into game tying and game winning situations in your particular sport. We hope we were able to provide some helpful advice and wisdom that you can take with you and use in officiating contests in your particular sport or sports. Thank you for joining us today. Have a great season.